We're going to take a whirl at graphing some parabolas in lesson 100. There's other ways to do this. I'm going to show you this way because it's how the book does it, so you can always refer to that and obviously my video, but I can show you other videos as well that show other ways for graphing parabolas. Real quick, overall picture is a parabola. Looks something like that. It's a curved line. It can go upward or it can go downward. Now, we're going to look at this kind of as a three-part series here and figure out one step at a time. But what we are trying to graph is x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals y. Now the first step is to figure out if it opens upward or downward. And that's very easy to find because we just look at the coefficient of x squared. If it's positive, that means it goes up. If it's negative, it means it goes down. So it could be a negative 2x squared, whatever. Well, since it's negative 2, it would go down. It could be a positive 5x squared. The number has nothing to do with it. The positive or negative does. So because it is positive, we know that this one is going to open upward. So step 1, complete. Second part is find the y-intercept of the parabola. So in order to do that, we can plug in x equals 0 and solve for y. So if I plugged in 0 to these x's, that's 0 squared minus 4 times 0. Well, obviously that would all cancel out. So y would equal 2. So if x equals 0, y would equals 2, or y would equal 2. So the y-coordinate, 0, 2. And I already kind of put that down there for you. So 0, 2, we know the y-intercept. Now the third step is kind of a doozy. We got to get it in the form of y equals x plus a squared plus k. Kind of looks familiar, like completing the square. Now I do want to show you these two scenarios here. Okay, this looks familiar probably in the past where we left that open spot. Well, all that's doing is saying this binomial or whatever it's called is the same as this trinomial, just factored out. So that doesn't really matter. I'm just showing you that these two are the same thing for just understanding overall. But now let's find a and k. So how do we find a? Well, it's the same thing we would do to complete the square. So completing the square comes into play here. So how did we find a? We would find a by taking the coefficient of x, negative 4, and multiplying that by 1/2. So a, that's negative 2, so we know a right here is a negative 2. Boom, got one of them. Now we got to find k. So the next step was we would square what we had there. So when we square that, or we square what our a would be, that equals a positive 4. So how we plug that in is we plug it in here and then plug in the opposite here. The reason why, you can't just add 4 in. That's ultimately we're adding a positive 4 and a negative 4. So positive 4 and negative 4, that's 0. So we're just manipulating the equation. If you just added a positive 4 or a negative 4, that would change everything. So it would be different. So we can't do that. So we did opposites here. So now we can solve for k. All you do to solve for k, add these two together. 2 minus 4 is negative 2, so k is a negative 2. So boom, we have it in the form of y equals x plus a squared plus k. So now let's look at what all this stuff means. Whatever a is, so in this case a is negative 2. The opposite of a is my line of symmetry. So what's the opposite of negative 2? Well, it would be a positive 2, right? Just a positive 2. So that's my line of symmetry. Now, my line of symmetry is going to go up and down. So if my line of symmetry is 2, it looks something like that. So there's my line of symmetry. So we got this step complete. Now, I gotta leave that. K is my y coordinate on the line of symmetry. So my K is negative 2. So I find negative 2 on the, I already know that it has to be on the not y-axis, the line of symmetry. So I already knew that my x-coordinate was going to be 2, and basically k represents the negative 2. Okay? And so from there, we can create and draw our parabola. So since it went to the left twice and up 1, 2, 3, 4, I can go to the right twice, up 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, overall there. Okay, there's more ways to get technical and whatnot with it, but overall, that is my parabola. I just kind of do the opposite of my y-intercept. And that's how you graph a parabola. Woo. So now let's do one more. Notice it opened upward, okay, yada yada yada. Let's do a negative one, because I know these are a little bit more tricky. Okay, plus k plus a. This is all going to be different. Okay, let's do a negative one. Let's do example 2, where it says to graph negative x squared plus 2x plus 2, and that equals y. So, the first thing we want to do is see if it opens up or down. Well, clearly, this goes down. We have a negative. I'm going to erase all of this right here. Okay. Okay, so it all goes downward. I'm trying to make sure I don't make any errors here. And then we can find the y-coordinate. So the y-coordinate, plug in 0 for here. And it looks like our y-coordinate will be 2 once again, because negative 0 squared plus 0 plus 2, so y would be 2. Step 1 and 2 complete. Now from this point, when we have a negative for the x value here, what it likes to do is ultimately, it likes to divide by that negative. So I'm going to, here, let me bring this down here. Negative x squared plus 2x plus 2 equals y. We want to divide everything by negative 1. So that's going to get positive x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals a negative y. So we basically have just moved the negative sign all the way to the y. I'm going to rewrite this up here, just leave this on the side and we'll get back to it in a second. Negative y equals x squared minus 2x minus 2. Okay? Just moving all this stuff around, create some space. Now we can get into solving for x plus a squared and yada yada yada, because we've moved the negative over here. So we take the opposite, or well, we got to solve for a, we complete square. So negative 2, take the coefficient of x, times 1/2, and that would be negative 1 for a. So negative 1 would be a. Now we take that and we square it. So that squared would be a positive 1. So we plug in a positive 1 here. And, sorry, I was just rewriting. X squared goes there, negative 2x. That negative 2 goes in that spot. So we plug in a positive 1 and a negative 1, remember, because we have to add a total of 0. So negative 2 minus 1, that's a negative 3 for k. Negative 3 for k. All right, so now we have it in this form. And ultimately it looks like this. The last thing we need to do is go ahead and move. We want to get rid of the negative over here. So we're going to divide everything by negative 1 over here. So what that looks like, let me go ahead and erase this. Divide by negative 1. That becomes y equals negative x minus 1 squared. We keep that quantity, just put a negative. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. So now we actually have our a and our k. So a, representing axis of symmetry, is negative 1, but we need the opposite. Okay, so opposite of a would equal a positive 1. Okay, opposite of a equals a positive 1. This negative has no influence on it. It's just representing if it goes up or down as the parabola. So I find 1, draw my line of symmetry. Then I look at my k. My k equals negative 3. Actually, sorry, it's a positive 3. We switched that. It's a positive 3. So on the axis here, or the line of symmetry, I find a positive 3. Boom. And then, so since my slope goes to left 1, down 1, I do the same thing there. And then I can graph my parabola overall. We'll talk about ways to find other coordinates on the parabola, on that line, later, but that overall is the concept of graphing parabolas.